Virgo, how's it going? And welcome to my channel. My name is Veroosh, and this is for Sun, Moon, and Rising Virgo. We're doing a reading for your Uranus in Taurus transit. I'll show you guys the astrology in a moment. I'm going to use this deck, which is a deck of oracle cards as opposed to tarot cards, and those are available at my shop on Amazon if you're interested. So I'm excited to be here. Why don't we pick some cards? This is a double deck. This is two separate decks, but you can find them on Amazon in my shop. So first card is the Strength, the number 44. So 44 for me specifically is different than numerology. 44 for me is sticking to your guns, seeing situations through, and something remaining with continuity, continuous. I'm dropping words today. Staying continuous, right? But I'm really on, so we're going to have a good reading. So staying continuous and staying the mark. I feel like your dignity has in some way, you have had to stick up for your dignity and have had to stick up for yourself. And I think that this is a commitment, but here we have like the relationship commitment. But I feel like you have in some way, it's been guttural. It's hit you in the bottom of your gut the last little while, the last set of circumstances. You have had to prove yourself to nothing and no one, and yet the entire universe, you know? It feels like you have, ever since Jupiter was in Virgo in 2015, when we got a little shine, and there was a lot of tarot card readers who came out at that time who had a sun in Virgo or something, all of us suddenly, it was like look at the astrological transits. Every single sign has some bomb like characteristic, and Virgo's like, you're practical and you like lists. And I think that kind of dissension is carried over into a general attitude towards Virgos anyway, both on the surface and in the subsurface. So when we received our blessings from Jupiter, it was almost like we were not allowed to have it. And subsequently, over the last few years, we have had to hold on for dear life to keep those blessings, to leave them available to us. And so this transit is actually from 2019 to 2026. But I do feel like this is about you facing the world and finding inventive ways to keep some of those blessings, to keep some of the positive things. Follow the leader, okay? So I think this is a message of try to find people who have qualities that you admire, people who have qualities that you admire, and do what they do. So, for example, let's say that you want to go and be a doctor. Why don't you find a doctor that you really admire and try to study their life, try to learn about them, and stick to it? I think it'll give you a lot more energy. I really feel like in this situation, Virgos have been in a sizable way challenged and taken away from, and in some way, it's like, just leave us the crap alone, right? Just let us be, let us have peace, and let us have our experiences. And it's like there's a fundamental disrespect towards Virgos, and there's this snotty attitude about our perfectionism and our hypervigilance. But guess why we have the hypervigilance and perfectionism? It's because we're called out for everything we do wrong. And it's like, so you get kind of nervous about doing something wrong, because before you know it, somebody's going to take issue with it because you try to do right than the critics, because our way of expressing ourselves has so much to do with what is right and what is fair, that when we get criticized for it, it's kind of like we have to defend ourselves a bit, and that we have to and it hits so close to home. There's no place to displace that. There's no false persona. There's just you and what you're doing. And so when you get called out and disrespected in this way, it's really about who you are. It's really about, it hits really close to home. So that's what I think's going on. Uranus is in your 9th house. This transit of Uranus, which is about 15 years, is bomb. Like, Pluto through here, if you have Pluto through here in your chart, it depends on what kind of life you want to live. I'm like the studious, business, go-getter type. So if you have a personality like me, this transit, Uranus through here, Pluto through here, this kind of transit is fantastic to get things done. So I think Virgos and Tauruses need to talk. We are kind of walking in a similar light in different ways. I've been having a year of wonderful connections with Tauruses. Capricorns too, but Capricorns have a completely separate adventure going on, so we can talk about that separately. But Tauruses, let's talk about Tauruses. Tauruses had their flowers stolen. They had some opportunities last year, and those flowers were taken last year from them. And now they are in some way recapturing that, but they are the general. So they're like, over my dead body, you'll take those flowers again. And so Virgos, I think, need to have a similar energy here, and that is keeping true to who you are, and that 44, not being dissuaded and held back from the commitments of your life. This also almost feels like our heartstrings have been played with, almost. Like the people had offered things half-heartedly without respect for who we are. And so this kind of general idea of Virgos, oh, the perfectionists, you know, whatever, I think that in some way that allows people to discard us, to not necessarily pay attention to us in a full way. And so I think that in some way you're learning to assert yourself and be a general Virgo, be the general, like a sergeant, or I don't know, captain. I'm not into the army, but like you need a leader. Leaders need leaders, okay? There's always someone who's better than you. So what you need to do is find a leader and many leaders and mold yourself based on them. This transit of Uranus in Taurus and then in Gemini is going to be bomb. You're going to have a great time, especially if you're an assertive, go-get-'em Virgo. Okay, let's see the next message. Spark. I'll take it in the reverse, although I'm not happy. There were some cards here in the reverse, but since it came up, the spark. Strength and the spark. So I think that's what's struggling, is like you have internalized other people's perceptions of you and what other people kind of throw at you in terms of their expectations of what a Virgo is. And I think it's time for you, because you're recognizing that that spark is, you know, you want to do different things. You want to be many ways, and that spark is sort of evading you. All tied up, okay, Virgo? All tied up with commitments, half-hearted people. If you are a deep person, if you're a person who spends all their time on producing valuable content, of being valuable to other people, experiencing value-added relationships in your everyday life, if you're a person who invests that kind of time into your personal life and your experiences, why are you committing yourself to people who don't see you for who you are? Here is the next message, is hostilities. Okay? So maybe some of these leaders are gonna, if you get any kind of red flags that somebody doesn't want to be your leader, you can do it low-key. I've latched on to a lot of people in my life. I always found people who I thought were really charming and interesting and tried to pick them apart, their knowledge, you know. And so some people may turn around, and because they want to represent the status quo. Here's some interesting thing. In university, I went to school for 14 years, 15 years, I don't know. I'll still go back, but the point is, in that school, I did really, really well in school. really well. But however, some people, some teachers, especially teachers who are conservative in their belief system, whatever belief system it was, when you approach them, I have an Aquarian moon, so Uranus is my guy, right? So when you approach people who are very conservative, and I don't mean religion or anything or political views, conservative means that they like what they like the system they know, and they don't necessarily, they want you to learn it and to not modify it, right? I got a lot of this, a lot of hostility, and in different circumstances. When I did computer programming, a lot of this. Because because all of my education is kind of philosophical, whereas computer programming is very, very literal. That's what I got. And I wasn't doing anything. I was just fabulous, you know? And so the idea here is that sometimes you're going to have to kind of put in perspective your amazing ideas. The Uranus in the ninth house is ideas. Wild ideas come to town. Your wild ideas are not going to fly with everyone. The next message is the thinking man. So maybe dull men, dull situations, broken heart. What is going on, Virgo? Let's see all of them, and then we'll move on. Golden Palace. Okay, I was about to drop the video because I'm like, I'm not going to send them this for 7 years. I think that you are living through a microcosm of larger life events that have happened to you before. Someone who seems like they're the thinking man, but they're really not thinking man. I know a lot of people with PhDs who don't really think a lot. It's true. There's different kinds of thinking, and I know people who never went to school. One of my best friends, he's older, but he reads so many books. He's not on the internet, but he's into like all metaphysics and stuff. He reads books. He literally calls me to read me chapters from books, you know? And he had the most tradesman kind of job there is. So but sometimes I feel like this is people who hide behind their qualifications. I know a lot of PhDs who are incredibly bright, incredibly smart, but he's dull. He hides behind, you know, his qualifications, and he's dimming your light, and it's probably happened before. So don't let other people's mentality overshadow you. That's another big thing. Uranus, this is your revolution. This is a time when you break through old patterns of thinking that are holding you back, because they're projecting their vision of the world onto you, and they're telling you they're spoon feeding it to you. And it's a broken heart. You have to face the fact that once again, you're going to entertain some of this stuff. And that reality, you know, you find your place. You have to find your place and away from all these things. I think you're going to go after someone who you admire. Oh, look, there's the white rabbit. Let's go down that hole. But I think that maybe out of that hole will jump a bobcat, and it'll try to bite your ankles or something. And so I think that maybe there's a little bit of a lesson here, but this is you. I felt when I saw this card, I'm like, oh, Virgo looks really tired here, really tired but the problem is the tiredness in 2019 that you're feeling has to do with towing the line for other people's beliefs and not recognizing it. Somewhere in the middle, you kind of come into realization that this is a pattern and this is what you're doing. You already know this, but you haven't absorbed it yet. And then when you go through the motions, when the heartbreak is accepted, that you are holding yourself back, that you're accepting people who are dull and dim-witted to kind of try to have an influence in your life. Because, you know, you have... Let's say, okay, so let's do this little exercise. I know I'm running late, but hopefully it'll help. Okay, so here's an aragonite. I can't really use crystals here because they don't show up too well. But let's say that my little froggy here is on this side, and the aragonite is you, and the froggy is telling you something and saying, oh, influencing you from this side. So what does the Aragonite can do? It can move to this side, it can move to this side, it can move to this side, right? But imagine that there is, here's my cat, he holds my rings. So imagine my cat is telling the Aragonite something else toxic. The Aragonite only has now 2 positions to go, right? So you see what's going on. And then I'm out of creatures. But here's Smokey, and Smokey's up to no good this time. And so he wants to tell the Aragonite something. But the Aragonite's Aragonite. The Aragonite's not a smoky amethyst. It's not a cat. It's not a frog. So now the Aragonite has just one option in terms of which way to go. But what happens in a situation when the Aragonite, you can't see the citrine, hold on, it's too light. Here's the Nirvana quartz. Now, all of these crystals wouldn't do such horrible things, but imagine that the Aragonite was surrounded by all these different people or circumstances, and this is like a long term, not just like one day event. In a big picture, imagine if you were sitting in the middle and all these different influences were pushing on you from every side. Which way would you go? And I think that this is the tiredness that you're feeling. You gotta get rid of Smokey. Sorry, buddy. You gotta get rid of the frog, because maybe the frog has some bigoted ideas. The cat can just hold rings. Go on, cat, with your ideas. And now you have so many different options. So I think that the answer in some way, I know it's kind of a funny example, but I think this strength card is you being you're being limited by the company you keep. And I think that the ultimate, you have to recognize how you're tied up with other people's bigoted beliefs about you, and you need to find the golden palace, okay? The golden palace is you being you, accepting the broken heart. And some of it's going to hurt. Some of it's going to be your family members. And that hurts a lot, right? When you realize that your family members are spoon-feeding you toxic ideas that are actually limiting to you. And it's worse when you realize that they're spoon-feeding it to you to make it more convenient for themselves. That's the real thesis. So remember, at the end of this, the golden palace is yours. So you're tied up, but you can get out, okay? Talk to you soon. Take care. Bye.